If anyone can hear me.
Turn it on. No.
All right. Oh, there we go. Oh boy, I have a loud voice, so this is going to be interesting. Let me put this up. Okay. All right. First of all, I'm so thankful for everyone to be here tonight. This is a really exciting night. Why start to cry? Gordon Crandall and I got together a short time ago, and very unexpectedly, actually. I remembered him from the 1970s, and he had done an archaeology project on land, and I got to do one underwater. And we hadn't seen each other for a long, long time, but it's amazing what can happen at Father's Diner one day when Mr. Barrows and his son was there. They're talking about, I heard Mr. Burton say, oh yeah, she's a diver, and then they start talking. Next thing I know, I'm in touch with Gordon, and it's been a pleasure. Gordon and I have done so much together. I want to thank Gordon and his family tonight for going through this. This has not been seen like this probably for more than 30 years or so like this. And Gordon is so wonderful to share his knowledge and share this very spiritual collection of culture and heritage of this area. The West River, the Williams River, it's just amazing. I want to thank all the people that donated the wonderful prizes back there for the silent auction to raise money for the Gris Museum. We need desperately to get a roof on that. So we put this together very quick, and we're very thankful for your support. I'm also, there's just so many people to thank, and I'd be here forever, but I do want you to know I'm just so thankful for all of you, and Gail Golick, she's a very knowledgeable archaeologist. I met Gail years ago. She's from Walpole, and it was great because she's such an expert in things as well as Gordon, and I would find these things diving, and then I'd call Gail up, and one particular day I'd call her up and I'd say, Gail, could you come over and take a look at these bones that I just found, because I want to make sure that they're not, Abenaki, Native American, and if so, I want to get in touch with and take care of the proper burial for these because they were underwater and they were eroded. So Gail, I don't know when she'd come, but, I can yell. I was a cheerleader once. All right, so while he does it. So anyway, I was so excited. Gail comes over and she says, she looks at the bones and she said, Annette, you don't have to worry, they're pig bones. I'm like, all right. And there was up north by Charlestown, there used to be a place that was a slaughterhouse. But anyway, I could go on and on and on, and I better not, because I am honored to have Gail here. She's going to speak for about a half an hour and lay down the foundation of this amazing history here. And then that foundation is going to be why I found what I did. And I have some amazing historical finds I found just in the last few months. Haven't shown anyone else. You're the first ones to see this, except a little bit Westminster. But I can't wait to tell you, but you need to hear her talk about why I found what I did. So with that, I'm honored to have Gail, and Gail, I think you'll be this.
Okay.
Unless you were a cheerleader once.
I never was, go figure. Very much, Annette, and while we're thanking people, we should definitely thank Annette for sure, because she got everybody here tonight. She called me up and asked me to participate, and I said of course. And probably everybody who brought or donated thing, that was all her doing. So she deserves a lot of credit, if not most of the credit, for us all being here tonight. Definitely. So like Annette said, I'm going to start off our presentation. We're doing a joint presentation tonight, and I'm going to set the scene for the different things that she's come across in all of her diving and her research. So we're going to try to set up the history, and so we can put all of that stuff into context. And I'm going to be pointing up there because I don't have a slide doohickey, so we have to rely on the powers that be up there, aka Larry. So one of the things I like to do when I'm trying to learn about a particular place, why it's interesting, is I start off with the topography and the geography, or geology in an area. And so here we have a really great topographic map of our beautiful area here along the Connecticut River. And we've got Fall Mountain here, we've got Bellows Falls here, Cold River, and the Connecticut River there in the middle. And so some of the things that I like to look at are the lay of the land. What are the topographic features? What are the geologic formations that we're looking at that would have drawn people here and did draw people here for thousands of years and make it an interesting and desirable place to live? So we can start off very obviously, we've got the Connecticut River, and that's important because it provides a means of transportation, north and south, running river, and it also, in later years, was a means of power, historically. And we also have some other side rivers. We've got the Cold River, we've got the Saxons River. Those two were also means of transportation, also sources of power. We also have these beautiful wide terraces, which are very unique to the Connecticut River Valley. And so this is where, these would have been really nice, wide open, flat places that were desirable for people to want to live in. They're nicely drained soils, and people don't like to live in wet, soggy places. So for literally thousands of years, these areas adjacent to the river have attracted the interest of human settlement. We also have a particularly interesting point in and around the falls itself. Of course, this is as most people know, the narrowest part of the Connecticut River. And so that just naturally lends itself to being a point of interest for one thing, but in historic times, this was the site of the first bridge over the Connecticut River, and as well as some of the other interesting geological features. The falls here themselves would have been an interesting draw too, not only because of the natural beauty that the area would be providing, but because of that natural stricture point in the river. Historically and in pre-contact times, this would have been a place where we all have heard of the fish runs in the Connecticut River. This constricture point was where a lot of people came to get fish. It was an easy place to get fish. Okay? And so one of the other things that is really neat and interesting about the Connecticut River Valley in general, but this spot in particular, is that we can see a lot of neat glacial geological features. And this map here shows a general layout of what this glacial Lake Hitchcock would have looked like about 17,500 years before present. And the reason there is a glacial lake here is because there was once a glacier here. About 20,000 years ago, the Laurentide ice sheet, which had covered this entire portion of New England all the way down to Long Island, was starting to melt and retreat. And as part of that retreat, all this meltwater was starting to be shunted into these glacial valleys that the glaciers had carved out. And let's see, you want to go to the next slide? There we go. And so these are basically like a little cross section of, if we were looking up the Connecticut River Valley in a cross section. So this upper area, I guess I do need my pointer now. There we go. There we go. So if this is the retreating edge of the glacier there, moving its way back north up the Connecticut River Valley, it's starting to, all of its meltwater is starting to accumulate in this valley here. And because of all of this meltwater and debris had started to collect in areas farther south in this valley and had created a dam of sorts. And so all this glacial meltwater is starting to back up, and that's what in a sense forms glacial Lake Hitchcock. Is that me? Okay. And so during different periods, there's going to be different levels of the lake. The lake will fill up, it breaches that dam after a couple thousand years, the lake level drops, it fills back up again, breaches that dam, and drops down again. And so you get these, the deposits that all of that glacial meltwater is bringing, excuse me, bringing all sorts of sediments into this glacial lake, and they're starting to deposit on the bottom of this glacial lake. And so after the glacial lake recedes, you'll start to see these very wide, remember I was talking about these beautiful terraces that we have here in the Connecticut River Valley, right here in Walpole and Bellows Falls. That's how they formed when the glacial lake pulled away, was leaving these wide open terraces exposed. And a little bit further down, if we look at C, after the glacial lake goes away completely, then you have the river itself in its natural state starting to wind back and forth. And we still have these little cane terraces on the sides, but then we have these river terraces starting to be carved out by the water itself. Okay, next. So this is a fun little schematic that I put together. This is just a regular a map, but I've gone in and drawn the high water level marks of where the water would have been around this glacial lake. Excuse me. At the glacial lake, at the maximum of the Lake Hitchcock, 17,500 years ago, this glacial lake in the Connecticut River Valley was at its maximum, at its largest. So where we are today, somewhere in here-ish, we would have been under several hundred feet of water. And as I said before, after a certain amount of time, there was a breach of the dam that was holding back the water of the glacial lake, and the water level dropped. So the next slide will show us the water drops a little bit. So you start to see some of these little terraces, these cane terraces, starting to be exposed in different areas, all up in there. And some of these higher upland areas are starting to become exposed up from under the water. And the next one. This is about 200 or 300 feet above sea level. We have even more terraces being exposed all up and down the river valley, until finally the lake drains by 13,500 years before present, and we pretty much have the general layout of what the Connecticut River course is going to be. Okay? And so why am I telling you all of this? Really boring stuff about glaciers. Well, it does tie into what Annette is going to be showing you, some pretty interesting discoveries that she found while she was diving. So all of that buildup has to do with a particular kind of sediment that you find in glacial lakes. And so if this is a cross-section of our glacial lake Hitchcock, we can see the deposition of this very thick, coarse sediments, and then a layer of very thin, very fine sediments. And that happens, this is sort of like a blow-up of what that would be, of those pair. So on the top, we have these winter sediments. So when the glacial lake, there's not as much water running into that lake, there's not as much sediment running into that lake, we have really fine sediments that are being deposited. But in the summertime, there's a lot more water, there's a lot more runoff coming off from the sides. There's a lot more thicker material that's starting to be, that's starting to drain into the rivers, or into the lake rather. And so in the summertime, we get these very thick, very coarse deposits. And so then, if you take the two of them together, that generally represents a season of deposits. And why that's fun and interesting is because geologists can take those pairs, a summer and a winter, together, and that represents a year. And so they've been able to go back and date very accurately when the glacial lake was formed and how long it took to accumulate these deposits and how long the glacial lake has been there. And she's going to show you some examples of that she uncovered in the river this summer. Okay? Just going to take a drink here. So getting into some of the history. The history of this area. Okay, next slide. I just want to talk a little bit about the concept of cultural appropriation, which has been a problem in the Native American community, or not in their community, but for their community for quite a long time. And just people taking on bits and pieces of the native culture and taking it on as their own, or having academics stand in a group in front of a room full of people and tell you about what it's like to be a Native American or an Abenaki. I am not Native American or Abenaki. I'm an archaeologist. I do research, I dig holes in the ground, And from that standpoint, I can talk to you about that. I can't tell you what it's like or any of the cultural references of being an indigenous or native person in this region or in this country. So anything that I talk to you or present today is from the standpoint of just a researcher. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, next. And so one of the fascinating things and unique things about this region is that we have petroglyphs, and not just one set of petroglyphs. We have two sets of petroglyphs about 20 miles apart. And petroglyphs are fascinating because they don't happen everywhere and they don't happen just anywhere. So when you come across petroglyphs, they're generally placed in places that are really important and for very specific reasons. And we just happen to have a set of petroglyphs here in Bellows Falls. Next slide. And having said all that about how interesting and important the petroglyphs are, you wouldn't know that from reading history or more recent history about the presence of Native Americans in this area. And I just pulled out this sample from an 1855 history of Walpole. And it's what I call the Victorian notions, ambivalence and distance. And basically, I won't make you read the whole thing, but in the first sentence, they say, it's not positively known whether the Aborigines, Native Americans, ever occupied permanently the territory now embraced by the lines of this town. So we don't know that they were ever here, but a large number of Indian artifacts were found here. Plowshares uncovered burials. We have spearheads, arrowheads, clamshells. So they go on to list all the reasons why the Native Americans probably were here, yet they're still trying to present it as we don't know if they were really here or not. And that sort of concept is kind of silly in passing when we read it, but it very much informs our notions even today about being dismissive about Native American people being here and their rights. Okay, next. And what's great about the things about the petroglyphs is you really can't deny that Native Americans were here. Like I said, we have these petroglyphs. And the ones in Bellows Falls have been very well documented very early on. Back in the 1790s, there were people up here studying them even then. And these are renderings from a book from the 1791 study. And it shows why this is good, is we can see that they've, obviously we know they've been changed over time somewhat, but this is really nice because we have a starting off point for what they might have looked like before they were changed so much. Next. And so the petroglyphs themselves are situated right about here. And it's again, I'm not going to speak as to the implications of that specifically, but I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that the fact that there are burials had been found pretty much right up above them and very close by in several other places is no coincidence. Okay, next. So we'll bring it into the colonial period settlement in this area. And this is one of my favorite historical periods to study. It doesn't get a lot of playtime. We pretty much go from Pilgrims to this Revolutionary War, and everything in between was kind of just happy and fluffy. But this particular spot up along the Connecticut River actually saw quite a bit of action in all those years leading up to the American Revolution. Okay? So just to set the scene a little bit here, a lot of the early Euro-American settlements were English pushing up from southern New England into the central part of New England, specifically up in the Merrimack River Valley and definitely up into the Connecticut River Valley. So you can see that I've got stars here that are located where specific settlements and forts were and the approximate years that they had been settled. So Deerfield, we've got 1673, but it took about 50 years for them to make it 20 or 25 miles north to the Hinsdale and the Fort Dummer settlements. And then all the way up at Fort Number 4, it takes about another 25 years before they have a permanent settlement up there. Oh, well. And just one more point about the forts. There we go. That I think what's interesting about that is again, none of this happens in a vacuum. And the reason is that this was a very difficult and dangerous time for people to be moving and settling in this area because Native Americans were definitely still living here, and they weren't happy about the English pushing past certain points that they had agreed not to push past and settle. And so this is where the genesis of all of these wars in between came from. Okay, next. But people were definitely moving up and down this river valley very early on, even though there weren't permanent settlements here. There is this quote from about the 1720s that references coming up to the Great Falls, which is right here. So people were coming and using this spot as a scouting point as early as the 1720s, okay? And this is just a quick list of some of the wars that were going on all through that time period. And some of them you may not have ever heard of, or some of them go by different names. But the Deerfield Raid in 1704 is pretty famous. And there's references to them coming up to this part of the Connecticut River Valley and going up the Williams River, and gives the Williams River its name from the family that they had taken up. We have a war going on down in Dummerston, or at Fort Dummer, in and around Brattleboro and Hinsdale. And we have the raids up at Fort Number 4 as early as 1746. We have some pretty famous raids that are going on up there too. And the French and Indian War, of course, was this was sort of a hotbed for a lot of interactions and raids between Native American warriors and some of the settlers attempting to settle this land here, okay? And so into the 19th century, changes start to happen. So we've had the Revolutionary War, and we have a lot of people moving in from southern New England into the central part of New England and establishing a lot of settlements and towns and all the infrastructure that goes along the way. And because of our unique geology and geography, Bellows Falls becomes sort of the hub of all of that. Okay. Now, when we talk about Bellows Falls being this industrial important city or important town, we think of Bellows Falls like this, where we have all the mills and everything is settled, and it looks like in our mind of a modern settlement. Next. But it started out as something very, very different. This is a watercolor from 1803, and we're kind of right where we are, where the sorry. I can't get too close to that, so sorry. So imagine us standing where we are now and looking east over the Connecticut River. This is Fall Mountain here. And so more or less this is the island. And we have just this bucolic little setting here. We've got some farms and a few other outposts, a few other buildings up here on the ridge. But not a lot is going on in Bellows Falls in 1803. But it's kind of hard to see here. There is a bridge this early. The next slide. There is a bridge. And so that is one of the things that is going to draw people and make this a natural congregation point from this point on. Again, this is the narrowest part of the river and the easiest and most likely spot that you would put a bridge. This is, no, it's okay. And this is, just for reference, this is what's known as the Hale House. And that this area is pretty much where the Vilas Bridge is today and where the railroad yard over in North Walpole is today. Okay? And so just another view of that watercolor a little bit closer up, just so that we can see some more specifics. We have the Hale House back here. We also have the canal. The canal is the first canal on the river, and it was being utilized. This again is probably about 1803. We know that was built about 1802 and completed. And so we have bridges, we have canals, we have a lot of infrastructure that makes this place kind of a wonder actually at the time, and attracted people simply because it had a canal and simply because it had the first bridge. People were even coming just to see that. Okay, next. So into the 19th century, this is when things really take off as far as industrial development in Bellows Falls, okay? So as early as 1858, of course, we still remember our canal was built in 1802, so we have the canal structure here. This is the island area, and Bellows Falls is still a pretty small little village. There's lots of stuff going on, but it hasn't really started to develop completely yet. Next. And just a close-up of that same map. We've got our canal here, and we have a few mills. Not a ton of mills. The whole island area had only a handful of mills really at that early time. But again, we have this infrastructure set up that is going to attract people who are interested in doing business. And this also ties into, obviously, what we're here to celebrate, the grist mill. We have this example here of the location of that grist mill this early, and this canal here, and that's some of the things that Annette is going to touch on as part of her research, so just keep this little picture in your mind when she's talking. Okay? And so we've moved on almost 10 years or so. This is about 1865, and you can see a lot of things are starting to change in town. North Walpole itself, there's still just a couple houses. It's mostly agricultural, but we see a huge explosion in different railroad structures. We have a number of railroad bridges here, or at least 2 railroad bridges, and a little bit happening over here on the island itself, okay? By 1885, things really start to kick into high gear. You can see the difference. This is North Walpole, an explosion of houses, a lot of people moving to the area. Again, even more being added to the railroad. And next. And then we have this view of it that we're all pretty familiar with. And imagine just 30 years before, almost, there was, like I said, a handful of mills. And in that time period, this entire area got loaded, filled up with all sorts of industrial development. And this little arrow here is pointing to the area approximately where the locks are and where the grist mill is, just as a reference, okay? And then again, about 20 years later, we still have even more development. And again, this little arrow here is pointing us to the lock approximately to where the canal is and where the mill is. And it's really just astounding to sit back and look at all of those buildings that were there. When you look at it today, it's really hard to imagine how all of them fit there. And in that all of them are gone for the most part. And our grist mill is one of the only ones that are left. Okay? And of course, the reason why all of those mills were there and why this area was one of the more developed industrial areas was because of the lumber industry. Here we have this view. This is North Walpole over here, so we're kind of standing where Dairy Joy is now. And I can't even imagine how much wood that is represented in this picture. We've got piles and piles and piles of it here. There's different stuff floating down the river. It's really just amazing to imagine all of that used to be happening here and taking place, and all of it's gone now. So as far as our history, why preserving the mill is so important is it's fun to look at these pictures, and it's amazing to have all this all represented, but we still have one building that was there from the very beginning, and that's why it's so incredibly important to work and to try to raise money to preserve that as best we can. Okay, next. So, in conclusion, the overall importance of this area, there are so many things that make it interesting, from its geology, unique and fascinating geology, and the fact that we have represented of so many thousands of years of human occupation all in one site, and the fact that we can make a very good argument that there's a lot of really important Native American significance to this spot in and around the river. And we have important early Euro-American happenings going on here. Again, not that people were living here necessarily as early as the 1720s, but people were moving up and down this river in the 1720s, and definitely had populations here by the 1740s and 50s. And as a regional transportation and infrastructure hub, that the railroads and the bridge were all things that were kind of marvels of the modern era. And to have that all happening in one particular spot is very unique. And especially, like I said, the fact that most of this mill infrastructure is now gone makes it even more important that the grist mill be preserved. So I'm going to turn it over to Annette, and she is going to talk to you about the really cool and amazing things that she has uncovered over the past couple of years, and tie all this together and really be the interesting part. So thank you for not falling asleep.
She is so awesome, and you needed to see that background to know exactly why I found what I did. And I'm so excited because I've been keeping this a secret for so long. So tonight I'm going to show you what I found just recently this summer. I've been all over the world diving, 43 countries, 146 islands, and you know what? My favorite place to dive is right here in the Connecticut River. We have a beautiful river. It's totally versatile. I'm a volunteer for the Connecticut River Conservancy, and way back, I find things way back, and I call David Dean because I saw those articles in the paper about how much he helped. You know, and he was always there for me to help me if I found a propane tank or something that did not belong there. So I'm so thankful to the Connecticut River Conservancy and their work that they do that help make this river so beautiful. So, all right. Please consider joining the Connecticut River Conservancy. Membership is $35 in Bellows Falls Historical Society and all historical societies. All right, so we're going to get into the action here. And Larry's already forcing me, don't do that yet. Okay. Larry, when I start talking too long, he changes the slide on me. We've been working together a long time. He helps me put a lot of things together. So here's the Adams Grist Mill. We're here tonight because this, as Gail said, is a very significant part of our history here. And we want to preserve this, and it needs a new roof. And we are raising money to put that roof on here. We don't want it to go away like Hetty Green's house. Remember that? Anyway, right where TD Bank was, that we should have kept that. But anyway, we're going to preserve this. So I've done a lot of diving. And this summer, we happen to have the best visibility we've had in years. For 38 years, I've never seen the river like this. So clean, so beautiful, and I had like 35-foot visibility. It was unbelievable. And I was addicted to, like, every day I'd get up and I was in the water an average of 5 hours a day. I did 167 dives and over 300 hours underwater, and I was on a roll. I just wanted to show the public what our beautiful river looks like, and this is what you're going to see here. So here's a grist mill. I started doing a lot of diving behind here because I'm fascinated by our Native American heritage here and culture and the beautiful rocks and formation that existed in the fishing grounds here. And I just am so connected to nature underwater. It's such a wonderful space, I can't explain. I'm underwater a lot. And it's so nice. There's no cell phones, there's nothing, there's no one to talk to. Maybe that's why I talk so much when I'm out of the water, right? Anyway, so I just love it. And let's go to the next slide. All right. What you're seeing here is, it's unedited too, and I'm really sorry. It's these millstones. I was diving just south of the Connecticut River here, the grist mill. And it was after a lot of rain, and as you can see, the visibility was not good. But I saw these down about 16 feet, and when I saw them, sadly, I thought, I want to show these to people. How are we going to get them out? Well, they are out, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm sorry that's a little bit loud. We might want to knock down that a little bit, or they might have a little hearing thing. So I see these big stones, and I'm thinking, what are these? These are pulp stones, pulp millstones, and they're just down from the grist mill. So it is really, really amazing. So we found these, and then I said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to get these out of the water? Well, it just so happens that Bucky Adams was doing the new historic walk. And that new historic walkway was being built at the time I found these. So Bucky's crew, Ben and Denny Hardy, were there working. I come up from the bottom and I said, oh my God, Denny, you're not gonna believe what we just found out here. And he said, what? And I said, look, I'll let you use my mask, you put that on, and I'll take you out to show you. You can see it. And he said, are you kidding? You're not gonna get me in the water, but I'll tell you what, Bucky, and he was working with Ben. He said, Bucky, Ben, we have the straps, we have the chains. You hook them up, you guys, and we'll pull them out. Oh, it's so nice when you don't have politics involved. Ooh, it was great. It's amazing what we get done in an hour, right, Denny? He's out here somewhere, I think. I saw him earlier. Anyway, so what was great, we put that chain right through the big grist mill. Oh, Gordon, this is such a story. I'll show them to you. Anyway, we all worked together and in a team in 45 minutes, I think. Wait till you see what happened. Hey there. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Denny. And thank you, Bucky Adams. Look at that. 45 minutes. What's the 45 minutes after we come?
That's what I'm talking about.
All right, that's what we're talking about. All right, that was great. So here they are, right there. And as you can see where I'm diving, you can see the power mill. That's where we found those. And they're part of the very historic walk. So if you haven't been down there, you have to go, because what I'm going to show you next has to do with that same area. So as the water was low, there they are. They are in the walk. And that's what they look like. They weigh a lot. And thank you guys for bringing those out for us, because we can all see and enjoy our history here. All right, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so I decided I want to look for some more of those this summer, right? So I get all excited and I go out and I'm looking around and I find this. Now we need David Deacon here right now, because he is a paper mill specialist, and he will be here in a month or so. And Larry Clyde tried to get in touch with him to identify this. This is a huge, giant, long, 8-10 feet long piece of equipment. And as you go down the stairs, if you're gonna go fishing or go kayaking, the stairs that are built, just to the left, just in about 10 feet of water, I found this giant gear, and I'm not really sure what it is. So tonight, all of you, everything I'm going to show you, they're all mysteries. And all of you can go to the Historical Society and help me do research, and we'll find out what these all are. All right, so I found that. All right, let's go to the next one. By the way, I forgot my notes, so we're just going to, I just don't stop talking anyway, so I don't have my notes. I might be off on 1 year or something, but don't hold it against me. Okay, so this summer, as you know, the water was so low. And I don't know if any of you noticed or not, but if you walk down those little stairs and you look to the right, south of the river, there was part of a structure that you could see in the water. I think I showed Gail one day when we were, I showed her. Anyway, so we're looking at this structure, and I said, I want to know what this looks like underwater. So, I went underwater. Next. All right, so I'm down, diving, and, I'm thinking it's shallow, pretty shallow. And this is where I am, and sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy. I'm so sorry, I was moving the camera too fast, but I was so excited. So I came up and I found where I was on land. Like, where am I compared to everything else? So I found that structure and decided to go under, and I was about 16 feet deep on the average. And I said, I'm searching and looking, and I started finding all this old wood underwater. Next. So this wood was very old, and it was actually, I found the Elephant Bridge years ago down between Putney and Westmoreland, and the structure was actually crisscrossed with very old logs, and I thought, this is amazing. What is this? I do not know what this was. Next. So as I'm diving down and I start seeing the wood, this is right out from the shoreline from that structure, and it's not real clear right now because there was rain, but you can see the gravel, the sand, and this was so weird. I'm down here, and I could feel that the water temperature was 62 when I went in. Under this structure, it dropped down to 38 degrees under this structure. I'm thinking, what on earth is this about? It was a spring right underneath this. Beautiful, crystal clear water. And I knew it was a spring because it was bubbling. It was going in the opposite direction of the river flow. And the bass and the trout. The trout, love it there, I gotta tell you. All right, next one. So I'm showing you a lot. This is what it looks like now. So clean, nice gravel, nice rock. I'm not sure if this is a video, but if it is, we can get this one rolling. And of course, there's enough brick down there. If you saw those buildings, there is enough brick in that river to recycle and build 20 mansions. It's amazing how much brick is down there. And it's beautiful in the sand and just gorgeous. I started finding, like at the very end of this structure, it went way, way out. I feel like I'm looking at it right now with this table. You know, I was diving 16 feet, and then it started to go a little deeper. And at the very end of the structure, because I was able to measure it, the width of it, and I thought, this is really weird. Is this one of the locks that we had? You know, I couldn't really figure it out, but I started taking a look at this, and we'll go to the next one. So, what it is, here you can see the spring. I think you can see the spring. The water is crystal clear, and I see like what looked like, you know, this structure from the side coming up, and yet the way that it was built, there were pillars on the side, and there was all this amazing lattice work that was just a structure that held something, and the width of it held something. Something was in this. Something was parked in this. And I did not know what, but I wanted to find out, and that's why we have the Historical Society. So I brought this to Larry Clark, and I showed him, I said, Larry, I don't know what this is, but can you help me do research on this? So Larry started doing some research at the Historical Society and found a drawing that was done in the 1800s, and it was in the mid-1800s. And in a minute, the mystery starts to unfold with this structure, and then I'm going to get into some historical stuff that I found that was stolen, and we're going to go on to a geological, unbelievable thing that I'm going to show you that I still can't believe I saw. But for this right now, we're trying to figure out what is this structure, and it's just right down, not too far from the millstones. So I think I was talking to Mr. Spaulding from Fact TV, and thank goodness he has a great crew that's going to help me edit this better, but I wanted to show it to you, and thank you for your patience on that. Yeah. So let's go take a look at this again. This is a little bit more. Again, I start seeing some very amazing things. Lots of trout, lots of brick, crystal clear water, gravel, stone, and I could see the way that this thing was built from the side coming up, and then it clearly had an opening in the middle of it, and I still didn't know, was this a lock? Was this one of the locks, or was this something different? So, this is the mystery. We all need your help. I need your help. Because I'm going to show you here in just a moment. If you're ever out there fishing and the water's low and you see pink survey tape, that's for me. I wanted to make sure I marked it underwater just so I could film it and measure it and go from there. So this is what it looks like right there if you're fishing. Oh yeah, if anybody fishes down there, this is why your hooks and get caught, because there's a lot of rock, a lot of gravel, and I find a lot of fishing lures down there. So this is why, if you like to fish down there, it's really neat. There's lots of bass, there's lots of northern pike, there's lots of trout, but there's also lots of rock and gravel, and I find so many lures. One day I was so excited, I thought, I'm going to find some of these and bring them up and give them to the fishermen. And I have this vest that I need for air, and it has pockets, and I started putting some in there, and I went, oh my God, this vest was like $600, and if those hooks penetrate this, I'm not going to have air in my vest to be able to come up. I don't think that's a good idea. So then I started carrying them in my hand, and a few at a time, and giving them to the fishermen. But as you can see, there's some fishing line. See, if you're fishing, that's why you don't, this is a bad place for you. So, as you can see, the mystery, and I did put quite a bit of video about this because this is something I just found a few months ago, and I really, really, really need everyone to do a little research here, because when Larry brought out the information and I started looking through the books, I found amazing information. And that information said that there was a structure that held steamboats that was right below the locks. And right at the end of that structure, it drops down to about 30 feet deep. It goes right down, and I think what I found in looking at everything, and we'll go for the next one. What I think I found, and I'm pretty short, and just trying to put it all together, I found evidence that there was a structure at the end of the first lock, and the steamboats would come up in the river, and they did in the mid-1800s for about 20 years before the railroad went in. When the railroad went in, about 1848, it was all over and done with. This was the end of the structure where I think they had like a pier where they, or next to it, where they would actually probably take luggage off, or I'm not really sure, but I did find where it said that this structure was built on a spring. It was built on a spring, which, you remember I told you that temperature dropped really cold, and it also said that it was built down by the coating mill. So Larry and Marguerite helped me do some research on that, and there was a 5-story building called the coating mill, and I'm going to show you something very soon that ties into that, I believe, and I need, this is where you can help. All right, next one, and I'm almost done with this find, and we're going to go on to the next historic find. But this, again, it talked about it being near the coating mill. It talked about it being near a beach. And on the other side of the structure, it's all sand. It's all very, very sandy. It's like, it is like a beach. And this is exactly what it looks like down there. This is all from all those buildings that Gail showed you. And this is the very end of the structure. This was so strange when I came to this. I think, you know, back then, the ice came down, and I read that they thought that a lot of this was, there was a fishing rod, I think. I think that they read that, that they probably thought that it got washed away or taken away by the ice. But instead, what happened was that all the sand and gravel baked up over the top of it, and it covered it. And I covered it a little at a time. It took a lot of time. So with that, it was in that cold water. We'll go again. Larry said, I think that it might be too much video for them, but I really wanted you to see this because barges came up, flatboats came up, and now I'm down below and I'm coming up from 16 or 18 feet here, still trying to figure out where I am and how it all ties in. And Larry at this point brought the most amazing drawings, which I'm going to show you in a minute, what I think I found. So again, on a beautiful day, come up, look around. Oh, an eagle flew over my head too when I came up, and that was kind of neat because I found so many eagles. I wish the eagle was in the picture, but
down there for an hour and a half already. So I'm out this far from the shore, and see you can actually see part of the structure because the water's so low right there. It almost looks like a pillar up there. Oh my God, this is so confusing. But on that drawing, there's some rocks in the middle of the river. And there's the shoreline. Interesting.
The water treatment plant's right up here. Just to give you an idea of where we are.
Measuring stuff, and I want to take a photo of a piece of equipment I saw up here. Okay.
I was out of breath a little bit there because I've been diving so long. that was my second dive. So a little bit more on this discovery and what it looks like right here in back of the grist mill. As you can see, when Gail was showing you those illustrations of all those brick buildings, I mean, look at this evidence. There's really not any rubbish that's new rubbish. It's like history now, and we have all these parts of all these structures and buildings, and it all ties in. I'm diving, and I'm looking for additional. And this is what happened. See this thing right here? It was really big, huge, great big. It weighs so much. I needed Dennis that day. He wasn't there, unfortunately, and Ben. But these are coated with some kind of thick, hardened coating. And there's 7. Oh yeah, see all the minnows? Isn't that beautiful? There's so many minnows down there. And they're always swimming around me and over my head. But those big round containers, I need your help. We need to find out if those round containers that are covered with this dark stuff is part of what they made at the coating mill, and I can't find out. So I found 7 of those, and they're big, round containers, huge. I mean, I could sit inside, look at how old it just filled. They've been there forever, filled with sand, gravel, rock. These are old. And these, I think, have something to do with the coating mill, which had to do with my historic find, okay? So, oh yeah, so we're gonna be going on to the next historic find in a minute, but see this northern pike right here? It's kind of hard to see, unfortunately. It was really getting late in the day. I'm always finding things right before dark. It's the story of my life. This guy right here swam right next to me, and then he ate very quickly a red perch. But it was really neat to see. We have a lot of beautiful fish, and they're all very healthy now, which is really great. So I need your help to we have to find out about those big round things that are covered with the tar, and all my evidence of this, I believe that I found just recently. Everyone thought it was probably gone from ice, whatever, but I think I found the end of the lock and where the steamboats would come up the river, which was very amazing, because they would come up. And they had, the first one, the Barnett, they couldn't fit through the locks. It's all documented, but then the others, they would actually take them out of the water, and they would take them by oxen through the square. Can you imagine this? An oxen and a cart through the square. Picture Joe's Dairy Joy. They go by there, right at that corner of Green Street. I found the evidence and documentation where they would actually lower those steamboats there back into the water to travel north. Can you imagine? I cannot imagine. All right, let's go on. We're going to start going a little bit south here, but I am going to show you what I think I did find. Gail showed you, I think, the similar map, and this is the area where I found that. This is one of the earliest maps, another early map, okay? And see this right here? I think, Gail, these are grist mill and the canal. Look at how different it was back then before all that industrial development. And this, as you can see, the train was in action, so that's when the steamboats went out of action. And this structure right here is what I believe I found. And see, there's even little pillars up and down like that. See that? I found those underwater. I found a lot of those underwater, and they're all in a line just like that. So I'm very excited. And we have more research to do. And I know we have a lot of people interested in history here, so we all have to help. We have to get this solved. But I do think this is what I found. All right, let's go on. So now I'm going to show you, we're going to go down to the Westminster Station Bridge. And the Westminster Station Bridge has an incredible history of being rebuilt, etc. How many of you have driven over the Westminster Station Bridge? Say you're on the New Hampshire side, coming over to Vermont, and if you look south by the island, sometimes after heavy rain, if you happen to notice, there's these great big giant whirlpools going on. Well, wait till you see this. So I love diving under this bridge. It's very deep. My deepest depth was 42 feet deep. That was before Hurricane Irene. After Hurricane Irene, we had a lot of water flowing down there. And what happens is when it hits those pillars here, the water will actually it flies down the river and then it creates these eddies behind them and is actually digging out a hole, digging deeper. And so the 42-foot depth is now 52 feet. The carp happen to love living there. The carp are really neat. And before the river was really clean, it was really kind of eerie. Sometimes I'd be down there and I couldn't see very far. And then I'd see this fish that was bigger than me swim by me, but I could just barely see it. That was really scary. But now I could see them from a long distance, and now they're kind of my friends. They swim right with me. It's really kind of neat. And actually, not just them, the bass. The bass like me. I get in the water, and next thing I know, they're all swimming around me, and they want me to feed them. So you're going to see some of those for fishermen here, but I hope you don't catch Charlie and Jim and Jane, because they have them on me pretty much, and the carp too. The things that used to scare me so much are now like my buddies. So anyway, I love diving under this bridge. Part of the old bridge is under here. All kinds of neat things are under here. And what I was doing here was, one day I just thought, I wonder how Hurricane Irene affected this bridge. I mean, is it still stable? I drive over it every day. But I also, diving here is very special. There's something, there's just, you never get tired of diving under the Westminster Station Bridge. A lot of work getting down that steep hill with 78 pounds of gear on, but I do it and come back up. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So under that Westminster Station Bridge, as Gail showed you in the photo, all those logs, there was amazing, amazing logging history. I could do another whole thing about that. I was in a documentary, PBS, it was called Dynamite, Whiskey, and Wood. It was made by Ed Klukowski from UMass. It was a PBS special. I'm like, Ed, why did they call it Dynamite, Whiskey, and Wood? And so I talked to Gordon about this one day, and so he said, well, don't you know what happened down there in Bellows Falls and Walpole and North Walpole? I'm like, well, dynamite, yeah, blowing up, I guess, some of those big log jams. Whiskey, he told me a little bit about that, and I didn't want to hear much more. And then wood, of course, and Gail showed you that. So I find a lot of PVs and a lot of pipe poles and a lot of evidence. I've even found amazing, what do you call them? Well, the boots that they used to wear with the spikes. And when I found those, that was a little scary, not scary, but sad, because I was really thinking I might find, you know, people, part of people in those boots. But they were wedged underneath a rock. Okay, so here I am underwater, and as I told you, I don't have my notes, so I'm going to look at this and tell you where I am. I'm underwater under the Westminster Station Bridge here, and I might have a little bit. Okay, well, let's go to the next one. I might have. Oh yeah, so let's start that. So this is what it looks like under the Westminster Station Bridge, everybody. And what I'm showing you here, maybe I do have a little bit. Okay, so you remember the pillars that were around that bridge? Just to give you an idea. I am right here. If I was on the Walpole side, climb down that big steep banking, the very first pillar out, this is where I am. And I tied my dive flag in case anybody in a boat came by and, you know, wouldn't run me over. And this is what it looks like. Those pillars were built with lots of big rock down to the deepest depth. And there, of course, the train that went by at the top. But this is so amazing. Look at the gravel. Look at the sand. 30 years ago, diving here looking for missing people. Oh my gosh, it did not look like this. It is so neat to see this reversal. And I'm finding history here. I'm finding evidence of, you know, history from the railroad. And this happens to be the side, just, you know, as I started down on the Walpole side, and the train used to go by there, and there used to be a train storage building up there. And everything I find right there, and I don't know what this is, so take note, because maybe you can help me, weighs a heck of a lot. My friend David was here from Hawaii. He went from 100-foot visibility to about 35, but he didn't mind, he likes adventure. So I took him down here and said, David, I've been diving here forever, and I just want you to see what it looks like. I love it down here. I've done probably 200 dives, close to 200 dives under this, about 400 hours underwater. So anyway, that's my fins, the yellow, and we're kicking up sand, and we're kicking up gravel, and the bass start coming around. We have found that rocks that are down there, the size of some of them are huge. And I'm trying to tell my friend David that, clearing my, see that? I'm telling him he's missing out and seeing the carp, but I'm also telling him I want him to look at something. I want him to see something that I found, some major things, and I want another diver with me. I didn't want to dive by myself. Next one, because I was in very deep water. So, take note. This is a carp. He's probably about 4.5 feet long, and that's one photo. And let's go, I only have, they love living in the 42-foot depth. So as you go down deeper in water, the light goes away. But this is how clear the water is. I have never dove ever under this bridge deeper than 30 feet and been able to see, and I do not use a light. This is down 52 feet under the bridge, and I'll tell you where they hang out. So, if you're on the Wappo side and, you're driving across to Vermont and you're looking toward the little island to the left, not the first part, but the second part, right against the Vermont shoreline. That part right there is 52 feet deep, and people are like, 52 feet deep? Yes, it is. It used to be 42. And that's why you're gonna see something I saw after Hurricane Irene. It just got amazing. So let's do it a little bit more, because you find all kinds of things and you want to know where did they come from and how did they get here, and you want to know the history. I mean, when I found the elephant bridge, I was shocked. An elephant? The first elephant ever brought, from North America? I couldn't believe it. But anyway, that's why we need historical societies, because they identified it. Sadly, that is a piece of rubbish up there. It's a battery, but this thing, I need your help. This is, I don't know what this is. It's cast iron. It's very old. Has a very amazing kind of handle on it. It weighs a ton. It is definitely old, and I don't know what it is. Maybe someone here will know. I'm trying to do research on it. It has a very, very unusual kind of handle to it. That's one thing, but it gets better. Wait till you see what's coming. So, anyway, I'm always finding things, and they're very old for the most part, and I want to know what it is. So that's why tonight, this is a perfect thing, because it's the historical societies that help me identify this. Okay, Larry? Thank you. Larry is such a help to me, so patient. Thank you. So right here, I'm like, what is this? Great big giant bags of cement. And it's like, okay. Oh yeah, my buddy's the fish. Okay, so here's my buddies, the bass. Now, this guy's about 7 pounds. All of them are. And see, he's mad because I stopped feeding him crayfish. So he and his buddies are like, okay, so then I'm like, okay, I better get him back in track, because he was mad. They come around and I feed them. I'll turn rocks over, pick up crayfish, feed them out of my hands. No one ever believes it, but we have so much fun doing that. And my fins kick up things underwater, but I feed them out of my hands all the time. And people will say, hey, did you see any fish down there? And if they're fishing, I'll be like, not right here, but down there. I see these fish, I can tell. Some of them have little wounds on them from a hook or something from years ago, and I can identify a lot of them, and I see them regularly. So that's a freshwater mussel, and they're picky. Freshwater mussels, they like, we just kind of break them underwater and feed them. But, so as we're going along exploring, I have found something. Yeah, that's me trying to yell, David, look at the carp, it's the biggest ever. And I'm trying to tell him, look, look, look. And he went, oh, yeah. And I had 6 go right over my head like a torpedo. And I'm like, David. But he missed them with his video camera. My video camera died, my battery died that day. I did not have it charged enough, and I was so mad at myself. Oh my gosh, but anyway, yeah. This particular day I saw probably, I think it was 11 or 12 carp all together swimming around in a circle. I felt like it's like being in a fishbowl when you're 52 feet down and you have all these carp swimming around you. They love this. They love the deep end. They love that sand on the bottom. So this is amazing. I mean, look at how clean the river is. It's all this rock and sand, and it's just neat. And right here, we started, I found a couple more things, older things, and I wanted David to see them. And we actually, I wanted him, and I know, my presentation is going to be about probably 15, 20 minutes more, just so you know. And then we're going to announce the 50-50, and I'm going to announce very quickly the winners of the silent auction, and I'm not going to take questions and answers, but I will be up here to do that, just to save time. But anyway, yes, so it's all gravelly, beautiful. I'm exploring. We're just like taking note of the depth, and let's see, I think, let's see, 45, is that 45 feet? I think 45 feet. We try to document, where we are, because there's another mystery that's coming up, and I need your help. So people always ask me, what is it like down there? Well, this is what it's like. It's amazing, those great big pillars, all the rock that goes down to the bottom, down to 52 feet, and then it's all beautiful, like stone and sand and gravel. Look at how clear it is. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, we have fish swimming between our legs and around our neck, and sometimes I have them bumping into my mask because they're so excited about getting fed again. So now I am going actually deeper. And also, these are the big bags, or a couple of them. I didn't know what they were at first, I got a little nervous, but they're great big bags of cement. And those great big bags of cement, there's no way we could ever get them out, and I don't think they'll really pollute. They're solid, and they weigh a ton. So I'm just really, there's two of them, two giant ones, and I think it was there from when they did construction on the bridge, and they fell over. I sometimes find tools that they lost. You'll see a couple of those in a minute. And let's see here. I think, yes. So, very soon, very shortly here, you're going to see a walleye on the bottom. You're going to see a bass chasing a red perch. It's really kind of neat what you see and watch and nature, and it's so comfortable and quiet down there, except when I'm breathing this loud, right? So, anyway, let's see. So we are at, okay, I have a little bit of notes. Oh yeah, so right here, I'm not sure if I was looking down and I missed the walleye, but I see a lot of walleye under the bridge, and they're usually around 35 feet or so. And now, horseshoes, that's a little, right down under the bridge, old horseshoes. So it makes you wonder, like, when they had the old bridge, did they walk along and there were little openings and the horseshoes fell through? I don't know, but different types of old things, mysteries, lots of mysteries. So found shackles, maybe some of the things from the old bridge construction. And I found some pottery that you had seen, and I did have a little bit of my notes here too. Oh, okay, so we're getting near, very, very near what the next find was. And this is another mystery, a really amazing mystery. So this is a circle. This is freshwater mussel. They're like on end, and they just kind of move around. They're usually doing straight lines, but this guy got creative and did a circle. Freshwater mussels, and because the health of the river's gotten so much better, I'm seeing a lot of native species of mussels that did not exist for really a long time. Healthy, not healthy, and now I'm seeing large populations of them. So I'm going along, and David and I, my friend David from Hawaii, he said, this is so much more interesting than diving in Hawaii. We have so much history here, it's just untouched. Everything, all kinds of things. So at this point, we're getting ready to, we're going around between the first and the second beam, from the Walpole side to the Vermont side at this point, and we're going along, and I wanted to be parallel to the bridge going to the shore because I found an Abenaki engine years ago from the Abenaki Engine Company in Westminster Station. I was looking for that. I didn't find it, but I found something else. So we'll go right to this, and all of a sudden, oh yes, I found a little bottle, and we're getting very close to the next discovery because I need you to help me with this one. So I'm looking at this little bottle that I found. It was really old, and David was to my left, and I had already found this thing once, but David rediscovered it because the visibility was so much better, and I knew we were getting closer to it. Oh boy, that little red perch was fast. That was good. Anyway, so we're going along. That's David. That's how we talk underwater. So I told him what to look for. So we found, rediscovered, because I have found this probably a half a dozen times. This is a safe from the late 1800s. Now, I'll just make it quick because I'm really excited about this. In 50 minutes, we're going to be done, so I'm going to be fast. This is from the 1800s, and I did some research and found out that the Abenaki Engine Company, which is the old culvert company, which is now the Abenaki Car Wash area, and Stanton Scott helped me with this. He has some pictures and things like that. But there was a robbery there, and they never knew what happened. And this is, they described a safe being stolen. So this is a safe, I think. It's from the late 1800s. And you can go to the next one. And so right next to the safe was David singing. Because we found the door. We were so excited. The door to the safe was not too far from the safe, but the visibility is so good. We tried, that's the lock combination mechanism, and we pried the door up, and we actually moved it over closer to where the safe is to keep them together so that it weighs so much. People are like, are you going to bring it up? Well, it's 42 feet deep, and no, we just film it, document it, but that's the door. And then that was the safe. So I don't know exactly what was in that safe, but whatever it was, there was no money in it or anything, but wait to see what's coming. So I'm diving, looking at this. We're really excited. We're thinking, wow, I'm very, very happy to re-find this, and we found the door. Got it over there. And then now picture this. So as you're going, across, this is very close to the Vermont shore where this one is. And it looks like maybe they picked it up and put it on the edge of the bridge, took the door off it, and then threw it in after they took everything out. But I did find documentation that they were robbed there, and there was one that was taken out. So I also read, which was kind of confusing, that in 1906, there was a gentleman who had his house broken into. He was one of the wealthy grain owners in Westminster, and he had a safe stolen with jewelry and silver. So I was concerned, that was in 1906. This safe is very old. I believe this is a safe that's closest to the Abenaki Engine Company, and I think that was what that one is from. Also, there was a typewriter stolen. Do you know what it's like to be underwater for 5 hours and then it's getting late, and all of a sudden you're going along through the sand and you start seeing, like, in the sand, this is how clean it is, these little white 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, what is this? And what are these little numbers doing in the sand like this? That was going crazy. Well, after I uncovered it, it was actually the cash register. So I found the cash register. I don't have that on here though. It was a different day. I didn't have my camera. I have the cash register. I have the safe. We have the safe door, which we're prying up right now. So this is right near the Abenaki Engine Company. Boy, you think of what happened in the late 1800s and such. So I don't want to quote, because I didn't bring my notes, of the year that the Abenaki Engine Company was in business, but it was the late 1800s. So I probably showed a little bit too much of this video footage here, but we really worked hard to get this heavy door up. Maybe that's why I left so much of it on. I don't know. I need to edit this, and I need the help of Fact TV and a wonderful TV station in Brattleboro to help me with putting my footage together, getting it a little bit better, but I wanted to show this to you, the first people to see it. Okay, let's go to this next one. We are getting kind of close to the end, but what I want to show you here is this is amazing, and I hope we have some geologists here. I really, really, really hope we do, because under here, we have some of the most unbelievable geological stones and rock, and I'm glad Gordon is here tonight because I've been trying to tell you what this is like underwater here, and this is the first time Gordon has seen this footage, but there's, I'm down 42 feet, no, right here, no, I'm down 52 feet, I know right where I am, it's so funny, being down here so much, I can look at the rocks and know where I am. That didn't happen many years ago. And there's, you know, some kind of unusual pieces that are very, very old, but all of a sudden, I'm down 52 feet, and remember I told you that usually you need a flashlight? All of a sudden, in the distance, it's fun little pottery, I started seeing this great big giant area that was really, really bright. And I'm like, why is it bright 52 feet deep? Why? I'm getting closer to it. The sand, the fish, the carp, beautiful rocks, 30-foot visibility. But then I was thinking, and I hope this is the area, but I'm pretty close to it. All of a sudden, I saw a part of this. After Hurricane Irene, I found a little part of this. But what I want to show you is, all of a sudden, you know, the white right there, those are part of glacial clay. I called Gail and I said, Gail, there's a walleye, a lot of walleye, they like that area. I start, you know, seeing this, and wait till you see. You're gonna think you're in another planet when you see this. So I start, you know, there's all kinds of things from the logging days and logging chains wedged in hundreds, you know, 150 years of treasure of history, and of course the bass, they want me to feed them again, but which I do. So I'm going along, and I'm getting closer. I'm going toward the island, just so you know where I am. So I'm closer to the Vermont shore. I'm going south. You know the island, when you look over and you're looking south, I am actually between, right under the bridge, it's 52 feet deep, then it's 42, and it comes up by the island. I know him very well. He's always there. And I found some pottery, and he's waiting for me to feed him crayfish. But anyway, you know, I'm looking, I'm just exploring, and you're seeing right now things, you might even see some things in this that I haven't even seen, because I've only reviewed it a couple of times. And there's the circle. I'm coming back. I'm actually coming back toward the bridge. That is a total circle that the mussel made, okay? And, all right, so this is, I'm coming back, and this is north of the bridge. North of the bridge is only 22 feet deep, just so you know. It's all sand, small stone, but now I'm actually going back for a second dive, came back up, changed tanks. Now I'm on a roll, because I saw something, and it was really amazing. I'm 52 feet deep. I'm deciding, okay, I'm gonna go back down, because I was almost out of air going toward the little island, and I knew I'd have to swim back against the current. So I thought, I'm gonna just put my tank on, and I am going to go back, and David was up for a second dive, and we're just down, you know, and I set my compass and I said, I want to go down. So this is, just to give you an idea, we were communicating underwater. We were under the bridge, and I wanted to go south toward the island. So I just saw a glimpse of this before, and it was like clay, and when you touched it, and with your hand, it would get all milky white. And some of you have probably seen it kayaking or fishing in various places, but I've never seen anything like this. So I'm going back down deeper, 52, heading toward that, and I'm thinking, wow, this is just amazing. We found more structure, like from probably railroad time. The original structure of the bridge, we found, that was probably part of the top of it, but I think that was maybe a repair to the existing bridge. But we found like the old big beams, big giant beams that were, the ends were like carved out, where they interconnected. So this is the Westminster Station Bridge before it was reconnected, and Larry was fascinated by some of the size of these beams were amazing, and they just go all the way the length of the existing bridge. And it's very, very deep, and they go in and out of all the sand and gravel. So they must have it's just amazing. So again, I said, okay, we're going to, I want to be able to show everybody what it's like under here. But I kept seeing when I was down, and this is also part of, I think, the original structure here. And let's see. Yep, I'm looking at that, fascinated. I wanted to head toward the island, but I stopped and checked this out. It's down probably about 32 feet here, I think. And the wood is huge. I mean, some of it is as wide as this table, maybe a little bit more than, it was really amazing. Wide, long beams. Long, big trees. Okay, Larry? So, now, watch this. Now, I'm heading down to the island. I'm 52 feet deep, and I find this. And Gail, she hasn't seen this part yet. It's like, you feel like you're in Mars. I'm almost to the island. I'm 52 feet. And I kept seeing something far away, like a big white something. This glacial clay is so, and Gordon, please help me with this because you really need to, Gordon, in the glacial clay, the sharp edge is like this, amazing. And there's stones that are different colors where the glacial clay, I think, has worked away from it. Look at how strange this is, everybody. And I found this when I was alone the first time, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm on another planet. It's huge. This area is huge. It starts at 52 feet deep, and the area is probably, I'd say about from this wall almost to the other side of, it's 52 feet, and then you come up from the bottom, and it stops at about 20 feet deep. And if we have any geologists in here tonight, I've collected samples, and I show Gail. I have the samples in my refrigerator. I have another refrigerator. Look at this. Is this amazing or what? This is amazing. And I believe this little, like, insects and Gail said some of the things that lasted long, for the fossils or whatever, might just be like fish eyes. And I went, fish eyes? Well, Gail, the ears, I'm sorry. Wait, hold on one second, please. Could you just tell them, please?
So what we were talking about is in between those layers of these varved clays, sometimes they'll actually find fossils preserved, or sometimes even organic matter is still preserved.
Second safe.
Sorry, oh no, this is way more exciting than ear bones. But what some scientists will be able to do is they can determine what kinds of fish used to live back when this was first being populated by the original species of fish, is because every fish has a specific kind of ear bone or otolith, and those are preserved oftentimes in these varved clays, and so they take the samples and they can sift them, and they have these tiny little bones from the fish.
Thank you. I didn't want to give you the wrong information. She's amazing. This is a second safe. A second safe we found. All right, so remember I told you it was 52 feet? Well, this safe, I think, got pushed down because it's lighter and it's not as old. I'd say maybe early 1900s. So I'm thinking, 1906, that other guy, the wealthy grain guy, what's in this safe? So David, like, he's putting his light, and I'm like, don't touch that. We want to save everything, preserve it, but he was excited, and I'm like, don't touch it, don't touch it. So I want to go back in, but look at this. This is really, really wild. And look at how these edges are all carved out like this. I haven't shown this to anyone else. I showed it to Larry, and I showed a little bit of it to the Westminster Station, but this is the second safe. And couldn't find the door of this one. Maybe the same guys didn't take it, or maybe it's, I think this, because it was, look at these sharp edges, how this is carved out. Can you believe that? When I first found this, I was like, oh my God, am I narked? Did I have too much time underwater? But Gordon, the stones, would those be like travelers as the glacial structure moved? I don't know. Now, we only have about 5 minutes left, and thank you for your patience, but I gotta show you. These are my refrigerator, so if you have a geologist out there, I have them in my refrigerator. I've kept them nice and cold. They're in the original water, 50 feet, 30, 40, 20, and it goes from 52 feet, and it stops at 20. And it's a big area, it's amazing. And I don't know if I should say what I found, but should I say? I should have evidence probably, but I thought, I'll wait for evidence. Okay, I won't talk. I found something else in the glacial clay, and it'll be part 2. Okay, all right, I have to go, she's a scientist and I'm an explorer. All right, so now, this is amazing. So I find this thing, right? I'm like, what the heck is this? And it's right near the safe. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. What is this thing? So I'm so excited, and I take it out of the water, and I kept it in water though. I kept it wet because I didn't want it to decompose. And I called Larry. I saw my tank on my back. It's in the glacial clay. It was behind the safe, and it was stuck in the glacial clay. And it was the only kind of man-made thing I saw other than the safe. The rest of this is just amazing geology and archaeology. And I need you guys big time to help me with this. And also, look at this, like, there's little holes in it. I think there's living creatures in it. Really. I think that, is it the mayfly that lays eggs and then they come after so many years? Okay, so, I'm not sure. Okay, yes, so this is the end, but I'm going to show you something. See this thing right here? I did not know what this is. I brought it to Larry. I'm like, Larry, look what I found, look what I found. It was dark, and I got really excited. I thought it was a gold coin in the middle, but it's not. It's brass. But it's an old, we'll go to the next slide, Larry? Yes, so I brought it to Larry. Larry, flip back to that other one for a second if you can. That's how it was when I found it. What are friends for? Larry Clark took that and he soaked it in WD-40 and he took all his time to scrape it out, and we were hoping we could tell what this said for this presentation, but we don't know, but we're getting closer because Larry cleaned it so good, and what happened? We could see writing underneath. We can see the writing, right? You're not going to believe this. I'm so excited. So guess what? We know that we don't know, was it a copyright for one of the inventions at Abenaki Engine? What was it? And we want to know. And we're very close because Larry cleaned it for me, and I don't know what it says yet. And Larry, you can go to the next slide. Just bear with me, everybody. I loved exploring. I hid it under here. Here we go. And tonight, after I know I'm done with this, and we're going to announce the 50-50, and I'm just going to announce the winners, and we'll answer questions after if you want to come up and see me after. But I want to thank Larry Clark and the Bellows Falls Historical Society, because right now, you can look at it after, Larry's got it 99% clean, and we know it says Bellows Falls on part of it, and we got number 1053, and we don't know the rest of the story. And I need all of you to help because we have to solve this mystery of what I found. All right, with that, we are going to announce the 50-50 winner, and then I'm going to announce the winners of the silent auction. And I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. So, anyway, and I'm sorry if you got dizzy from all my unedited film. I was getting dizzy watching it myself. All right, so we're going to have Gordon reach his hand in here and pick the winning number. My dear friend Gordon. Oh wait, my hand is in the way. Wait. All right, ready? I'm not looking. I'm not looking. So right out of the archy. Oh, I know. Hold on. I know it's my fault. It's the kind of look. It's like giant. There we go. All right, yep. I'm not looking for one. Got him. All right, he's got the top one. All right, here comes the 50-50 winner, and here's the number. And the number is, of course, it's 5444100. So whoever has that number that ends in 4100, you won the 50-50, and you can see Marguerite at the end. All right, so here's the winners of the auction, and just so you know the procedure, if you didn't bid on the auction, if you want to take a look at this again, you can. And I just want to thank you all again for coming to this, and we'll have part 2. Here are the winners. Number 4, you won the bid. Number 4, this is the, oh, we don't know what they bid on.
No, we're just going to go ahead and call them up. They can pay cash, check, or credit card.
Okay, so number 4, you have won. Number 7, number 9, number 10, 13, 16. John and Marguerite and the helpers have everything ready for you up there. Number 17, 18, 19, 21. We're almost done. 26, 28. I don't know what I want to 30, 31, and 34, 38, 41, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. You all have won something, and John, thank you for all your help tonight. John and Marguerite have been such a help. Thank you, everyone, and I'll be here to answer any questions if you have any for me. I just want to keep everybody else. Thank you. Gordon, thank you so much.
That just looks like